In our headlines on this Friday afternoon, April 7th, here in South Korea. The country's current account looks to record yet another deficit in the month of February amid sluggish chip exports as Samsung Electronics' first quarter profits look to post a disturbing decline. On its final day of inspection of Busan's prospects for the 2030 World Expo, the delegation from the International Exposition Bureau said Korea's southern port city has all it takes to host a World Expo. Chinese President Xi Jinping and French President Emmanuel Macron on Thursday in Beijing agreed on the importance of peace in Ukraine while rejecting the potential use of nuclear weapons in warfare. We start on the local economic front. Korea's current account remains in the red for a second month in a row as semiconductor shipments overseas continue to shrink. Our Moon Hae-ryun reports.
South Korea's current account recorded a deficit for the second month in a row in February. Preliminary data released by the Bank of Korea on Friday shows that the country's account balance was in the red by $520 million. This is down more than $6.3 billion from the current account balance recorded at the same time last year. This follows a record high deficit the previous month. The goods balance suffered the greatest losses in February, falling by more than $5.6 billion on year to record a $1.3 billion deficit. It's the fifth consecutive month that South Korea's goods account has recorded a deficit. This was attributed to the sharp decline in exports, which dropped by $3.4 billion on year to $50.5 billion, a decline of more than 6%. The semiconductor and chemical goods sectors performed the most poorly. Exports of semiconductors fell by 41.5% compared to the same month last year, and chemical goods exports were down by 9.8% amid the economic slowdown. On the other hand, imports rose by $2.2 billion on year to nearly $52 billion. In particular, imports of raw materials such as gas and chemical industrial goods rose by over 7% compared to last year. For gas alone, imports rose by nearly 73% to over $6.1 billion. Meanwhile, the deficit in the service account, which includes earnings and spending on overseas trips and transport, came to over $2 billion in February. The travel balance deficit more than doubled on year, from $430 million to over $1 billion due to the easing of COVID-19 restrictions, prompting more Koreans to travel overseas. It remains to be seen whether this will improve with more inbound travelers from China, and the Bank of Korea remains optimistic that the goods balance will also improve amid hopes of an improvement in the semiconductor sector in the second half of the year. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Well, despite those hopes, for now, first quarter profits for Samsung Electronics are projected to have plunged almost 96% on year. Our Lee Soo-jin has the latest.
Samsung Electronics is expected to post an earnings shock for the January to March period amid the continued sluggish global chip demand. The company disclosed on Friday an estimated consolidated operating profit for the first quarter of some 600 billion won, or around $455 million. That's a decline of nearly 96% from the previous year. Sales came to around 63 trillion won, around $48 billion for the same period, plunging almost 20% on year. This marks the first time in 14 years that the tech giant's operating profit fell below 1 trillion won. Analysts linked the sharp decline to plunging demand for semiconductors since the end of last year, resulting in lower prices in the chip market. They also expect the semiconductor division, which makes up 60 to 70% of Samsung's operating profit, to post a deficit of around 4 trillion won as its chip inventory continues to swell. Samsung responded to the ongoing sluggish demand for IT products by saying it will make adjustments to chip production. This is the first time the company has officially announced its intention to cut production, although exact details have not been revealed. The tech giant did say, however, that it will continue to increase investment in infrastructure as well as research and investment. 이수진, Arirang News.
Beyond Korea, the International Monetary Fund projects a period of lackluster economic growth for the world, averaging about 3% over the next 5 years. Now, this is its weakest projection since 1990. Our Jae-ok has more.
According to the International Monetary Fund's Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, on Thursday, the UN's Financial Monitoring Agency expects the global economy to grow at the slowest pace since 1990.
We project global growth for the next 5 years to remain around 3%. This is our lowest medium-term growth forecast since 1990.
Calling it the IMF's lowest medium-term prediction since 1990, the IMF chief noted that the latest forecast is well below the average of 3.8% in the pre-COVID decade. She pinpointed several reasons for the slowdown, including higher interest rates by the world's top central banks, which drove up borrowing costs for households and businesses. She also said that 2022's slowdown was due to the aftershocks of the COVID-19 pandemic, while the Ukraine war will lead to further deceleration in 2023. Georgieva says that China and India would account for half of global growth in 2023, while 90% of advanced economies would see a decline in their growth for the year. At the same time, low-income countries would see per capita income growth staying below that of emerging economies due to higher borrowing costs and weakening demand for their exports. Despite high interest rates being one of the major reasons behind the global economic slowdown, she still urged central banks to stay the course in the fight against inflation as long as financial pressures remained limited. Georgieva's comments come ahead of a meeting between the IMF and the World Bank in Washington next week, with the global economy top of the agenda. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
We've come a long way since 2008.
In Busan, on the final day of their on-site assessment of Busan's prospects as a potential host to the 2030 World Expo, BI inspectors praised the efforts thus far, claiming that Busan has all it takes to host a World Expo. Our Song Yoo-jin was there.
The last day of the BIE's on-site inspection of Busan was another busy one. The delegation visited the world's one and only UN Memorial Cemetery in the morning and held a luncheon with young people in South Korea. In the afternoon, they took the time to speak to reporters about their 6-day visit.
We looked at the project from a financial point of view, logistical point of view, if the project has the necessary political support, if it has the support by the commercial entities, if it has the support from citizens. Busan has everything that it takes to host a World Expo.
What impressed them the most was the heartfelt warmth of Busan.
The welcome that was given to us by the citizens of Busan showed really the support for the project of Expo 2030.
Recognizing and offering to help tackle shared global challenges through the Busan Initiative and its 3 sub-themes were the strengths the BIE pointed out in the bid. The initiative is a core strategy of the city's candidacy that seeks cooperation with other countries to resolve the digital divide, climate change, public health, and food shortage crisis.
Expos are not just the 6-month events, but it's the whole process leading up to the event, and perhaps even more importantly, it's what we do with what we learned from this event afterwards, and what kind of partnerships and strategies we can build as a global community. So from that point of view, I think that the city of Busan, together with the Expo Bid Committee and the government of Korea, have a very good idea on how to push this forward. Themes need to evoke emotion. They need to really draw something out of us so that we can, all of us, all the different countries around the world, come and present something truly useful at an Every Expo. And when you look at the theme of Busan, you have the idea of climate change.
After the press conference, the BIE enjoyed a farewell dinner, followed by a firework display at Gwanghwaلی Beach. The delegation will next write an assessment report and hand it to the BIE's executive committee for an review. Based on this and the remaining presentations of the 4 candidate cities, the final decision will be made in November. 송유진, Arirang News, Busan.
Up next, our finance correspondent Lee Jae-ok covers the projected economic gains of Busan hosting the World Expo in 2030 for the country as a whole. Do take a look.
South Korea's government is all in to win the bid to host the World Expo in Busan. The economic impact it's expected to create is huge, 61 trillion won or around $46.4 billion with 500,000 jobs expected to be created. But this is not the first time that South Korea has hosted an expo. In 1993, there was a Daejeon Expo, which was science-themed, and in 2012, the Yeosu Expo, focusing on its theme of oceans. These two past events differ from a World Expo in that they were recognized expositions, also called specialized expos, where the host country has to pay for the construction of all the pavilions used by each participant country. These expos only run for 3 months. The World Expo that Busan is aiming to host is what's called a registered exposition, whereby each participant country has to cover the cost of the construction of their pavilion. This type of expo runs for 6 months. Large corporations are also kicking into gear in order to help Busan win. At the Entrepreneurs Committee for the World Expo 2030 Busan, 11 giant corporations including Samsung Electronics, Hyundai Motor, SK, and LG are doing all they can to make sure the bid is a success. Business leaders from these companies have been traveling across the globe to drum up more support while showcasing the latest technologies that South Korea has to offer, like the 6G network, robots, and metaverse during expo-related events. Startups are also hopeful of seeing the World Expo in Busan in 2030, as the event may help rebalance regional growth compared to the capital, Seoul.
This is a chance for startup technologies to be showcased to the global market on our home ground. This could be a point where startups could seek for their expansion. There was a startup program at the Dubai Expo, so we're urging the Busan city government to operate the program this time as well.
Local industrial tech institutes and around 300 local companies are also showing their support for the bid by pledging to help with the event's technology infrastructure. Lee Jae-ok, Arirang News.
On the local political front, the ruling People Power Party has elected 3-term lawmaker Yoon Jae-ok as its new floor leader. Representing a constituency in the conservative stronghold of Daegu City, Yoon beat 4-term lawmaker Kim Hak-yong for the post, gaining 65 out of the 109 votes cast by fellow ruling party lawmakers on this Friday. He is deemed a loyalist to President Yoon Suk-yeol and will be serving a 1-year term until next April, when the 2024 general elections will be held. The ruling party is seeking to secure a parliamentary majority next year at the National Assembly, which is currently held by the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea. In his acceptance speech, Yoon pledged to restore public confidence in the ruling party and to aid it to victory in the upcoming elections. Also, on this Friday here in capital Seoul, top nuclear delegates representing South Korea, the U.S. and Japan reaffirmed their commitment to countering North Korea's military and nuclear ambitions. In a joint statement, Seoul's Kim Gon, Washington's Sung Kim, and Tokyo's Takehiro Funakoshi condemned Pyongyang's flagrant violations of UN Security Council resolutions with its persistent missile launches. They also urged UN member states to refrain from providing work opportunities to North Korean laborers and to repatriate all paid North Korean laborers in their respective countries. The statement nonetheless left the door to dialogue with the reclusive regime wide open. Russia's war in Ukraine was the centerpiece of talks Thursday among the leaders of China, France and the European Commission in Beijing, during which peace was promoted and nuclear weapons rejected. My colleague Kim Do-yeon reports.
French President Emmanuel Macron and Chinese President Xi Jinping agree that the war in Ukraine should come to an end soon and nuclear weapons must be avoided at all times. This as the two met on Thursday in Beijing, with Macron arriving in the Chinese capital with a push for peace as one of his top agendas.
France shares the will to make sure that nuclear power is excluded from this conflict. International treaties should be respected. In no way can nuclear weapons be deployed outside of endowed states, especially in Europe.
We urge all parties to fulfill the solemn promise that nuclear weapons will not be used and nuclear war will not be fought. Oppose the use of biological and chemical weapons under any circumstances. Oppose the armed attack on civilian nuclear facilities such as nuclear power plants. Restart peace talks as soon as possible.
Macron also urged Xi to play a bigger role in mediating between Ukraine and Russia, saying he could count on Xi to bring back Russia to reason and get everyone to the negotiating table. Also during the day, EU Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen joined the two to form a trilateral meeting. There, she also reiterated China's willingness to play a part in forming peace between Ukraine and Russia.
I know from my phone calls that and President Zelensky asked for it publicly. So it was interesting to hear that President Xi reiterated his willingness to speak when conditions and time are right. I think this is a positive element.
Trade was also a major topic, with the EU claiming that European companies are not operating on a level playing field in China. Von der Leyen said decoupling from China is neither viable nor desirable from the perspective of maintaining good relations between China and the EU. Macron also made efforts to expand ties. Traveling with him to China were 50 French business leaders, including those from airplane producer Airbus and French luxury brand LVMH. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Back on the local front, the country's COVID-19 vaccination program for the winter season ends on this Friday. Now, this means the number of medical facilities where vaccines are available nationwide will be reduced from the current 17,000 to around 5,000. Those who wish to get the vaccine, however, can still get it for free at designated medical institutions. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization on Thursday reiterated its outlook that the emergency status for COVID-19 may be lifted this year, but did not share a specific date. A related meeting is scheduled for May. Researchers here in Korea are reaffirming the health benefits of edible insects as great sources of dietary protein that is fundamental to overall muscle strength, especially for the elderly. Our Ian Jin explains.
When we see elderly people spending their free time doing a variety of exercises, we admire their physical activeness and fitness. But for them, there may be some sadness that their bodies aren't the same as they used to be.
There was a time when I used to jump around, but now I walk like an old man.
The process of muscle weakening as a part of aging is called sarcopenia. But it has become a global trend to consider muscle atrophy as more of a disease than just a sign of aging. And diseases call for treatment. While there isn't a treatment for sarcopenia, local researchers have found that mealworm extract enhances muscle differentiation and alleviates muscle loss. Mealworm extract was applied to the muscle cells of laboratory mice. Compared to muscle cells that were not treated, results showed an enhancement of 60% in myogenin, a protein that is expressed early in skeletal muscle differentiation. The experiment also showed changes in the number of genes that influence muscle atrophy, collectively referred to as atrogenes. The muscle cells treated with mealworm extract showed a decrease of these proteins by 36%.
The scientific proof that these mealworms help alleviate muscle atrophy is significant because it allows the expansion of the use of edible insects as a medicinal additive.
The latest research finding was also published in the International Journal of Scientific Studies, Life. And the Rural Development Administration plans to further its findings by expanding clinical research into the use of edible insects. Once looked at with disgust, more edible insects backed by scientific findings are becoming recognized as health supplements. Ian Jin, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. We begin in Israel, where 6 rockets have landed after being launched from Lebanon. According to the Israeli military, a total of 34 rockets were launched on Thursday local time, of which 25 were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome anti-missile system. 1 person has been injured and no deaths were reported. No one has claimed responsibility for the launches, but the Israeli military believe they were conducted by Islamist militant group Hamas. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has responded to the rocket firings, promising to hit back at every act of aggression from Israel's enemies. The attack follows raids by Israeli police at the al-Aqsa mosque compound in Jerusalem on Wednesday evening. Known to Jews as Temple Mount, it's a holy site for both Judaism and Islam and has long been a flashpoint for tensions in the region. Taking a look at Tesla now, a special report from Reuters says that private videos and images captured by cameras on customers' cars were shared among Tesla's employees. Footage showing embarrassing and sensitive situations was reportedly shared through internal messaging systems between 2019 and 2022. These include road rage incidents and crashes into children. The revelations come after Reuters conducted interviews with 9 ex-employees who were involved in developing Tesla's self-driving system. Tesla and owner Elon Musk have not commented on the allegations of breaches of customer privacy. But Tesla's customer privacy notice says that its camera recordings are anonymous and are not linked to customer vehicles. Known for its wide variety of vending machines, which sell everything from edible insects to bread, bear meat is now also available in Japan. A vending machine in the remote town of Senboku in the north of the country is stocked with locally sourced bear meat. The meat is supplied by hunters during hunting season, when they are allowed to kill a specified number of bears as a form of population control. And the vending machine is getting some interest, with 7 to 10 250-gram packs sold per week at a cost of 2,200 Japanese yen or around $17. But not all are pleased. Animal rights activists have condemned the vending machine and called for the hunting of bears for their meat to be stopped. And finally, visitors flocked to New York City's Botanical Garden on Tuesday and Wednesday local time to catch the rare corpse flower blossom. It gets its name from the rotting meat-like stench that the flower emits. But the odor is by design, as it's meant to attract pollinators that feed on dead animals. Officially called the Amorphophilus titanum, the flower blooms for only 24 to 36 hours and doesn't have a set blooming cycle. The last time this flower bloomed was in 2019. Prior to that, it had not bloomed in 77 years. The flower is found in the rainforests of the Indonesian island of Sumatra. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Just when we thought we could breathe in good air after rain, now we are covered with a very much unwelcome guest, smog and yellow dust that blanketed much of Korea. Especially those in western parts of the country have hit hard with ultra-fine dust alerts issued. Now, air quality should improve a bit as the day goes on, but be sure to check the level if you're planning on going outside and have a face mask on. Now, despite the poor air quality, it will be chillier than normal and looks to be even colder on Saturday morning. Highs are going up higher this afternoon under sunnier skies. But the bright skies are covered with yellow dust all day, except in Gyeongsang, Namdo province and surrounding regions. Afternoon highs are 3 to 5 degrees higher than yesterday afternoon. Staying below norms through Sunday morning before returning to norms in the afternoon. It's going to be quite windy all day on the East Coast and Jeju on Saturday. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
And that ends our Friday afternoon newscast. We have Issues and Insiders coming up right after this break, so do stay with us.
Dear world citizens, see you in Busan in 2030. Busan is the most beautiful city, rich in culture, rich in all the best technologies, and rich in historical heritages around Busan, connected by all means of transport, including air, train, roads, and marine transportation. Don't miss the best opportunity, which will work as a permanent reminder on your mind that you really will have enjoyed the best memories in your life.
Contour the world, simply contour. India, the United Kingdom, New Zealand. Woo!
I'm excited. You excited?
Of course.
Yeah.
Music, start.
Lotte takes a new leap beyond its boundaries. Our change will lead to better lives for all. New Lotte, the power of a better world. New today, better tomorrow. Lotte.
Once upon a Korean time, classical music made its way into the country. And since then, it's given birth to renowned musicians, acclaimed beyond borders. And their stories and others are being brought to light by one Belgian filmmaker. So what is behind this filmmaker's interest in Korea? How does he explain Korea's remarkable advances in classical music? And what is his latest project to mark the 70th anniversary of the Korean War about? Welcome to Issues and Insiders. Today we shed light on a special guest who has been documenting stories about Korea, ranging from its talent in classical music to its poignant history to its current society. For more, I have director Thierry Loreau here in Korea. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Mr. Loreau.
저도 감사합니다.
Thank you so much for speaking Korean. Mr. Loreau, let's begin with a few words then regarding your latest visit here in Korea. What is the purpose of this particular trip?
Actually, it's a beginning of a big adventure. Tomorrow we filmed the first day of shooting of my first movie in Korea, but not about classical music. This time it will be completely different. It's about 5 people who are double identity, Korean and Belgian. And so we will reunite them all here in Korea. They will all come and they will talk together about was it difficult or not to have 2 identities.
I see. So this particular film that you're making is to mark the 70th anniversary of the Korean War. Could you tell us a bit more about the film itself?
Yeah, of course. So after the war, of course, the country was really poor. And so now it's a 10th economic power in the world. So in 70 years, South Korea changed a lot. And so I had the idea to find people who could tell this story of this success of Korea. And their life, they dedicate their life for Korea. So the first one is Ji Jong-ban. I don't know if you know him. He came in 1959, and he wanted to help the people in Imshil where he arrived, and so the people had no job, nothing to eat. So he imagined to take the milk of goats, and he is the builder of the first cheese factory in Korea, in Imshil. So he became very rich, and then he gave all his money to handicapped people. So he's really respected in Korea. He became Korean. He has a name in Korean. The second is Bae Hyun-jong. She's a nurse. She came in 1972. And she's the first woman who studied medicine in Korea. So she's the first doctor from another country than Korea here. And she has a very big center for medical and social. And everything is free. You don't have to pay. And a lot of doctors want to go there to work with her because, it's good to be benevolent. And then the first one is Julien Quintard. Maybe you know him. He's a TV producer, he's DJ, he's now fighting for the respect of nature and even an environment. He speaks Korean too, and he's really like a Korean now.
So these 3 individuals are Belgians who now live in Korea and work here as well?
Yeah, and so they are Koreans now, really, in their mentality too. So they changed. And
from Belgians to Koreans?
Yeah, and so now I wanted to show 2 Koreans who live in Belgium too, so we can compare the life they had. So 2 adopted people. Sang-hoon Dejean, who's a very famous cook. He has 2 stars on Michelin. And Cathy Min-jong, she's an actress in Belgium and the first woman to be director of a theater in Belgium. So they will all reunite here and they will talk about their experiences. I want that it's really human and plenty of emotions.
I see, it sounds impressive. How did you first come across these stories, these individual stories?
First, it's an ambassador of Belgium in Korea, François Bontemps, who told me, you know, there are plenty of stories of Belgians here that dedicate their life for Korea and to help the people after the war. So could you do something about that? And so I thought about it, and I thought maybe it would be nice to show Koreans who came to Belgium too. And so the first project changed, of course. Yeah, I really want to know if they have, if it was difficult for them to have two identities. It's really not easy, huh? Because when you are adopted, it's not easy to find your way in another country, culture, language. So this is the idea. I think the five are adopted in a way because the three Belgians are not adopted by Korean society.
Right, I see. Mr. Loreau, you previously made 2 documentaries on classical music here in Korea. Could you tell us a bit about those 2 documentaries as well?
Yeah, but since 1996, I filmed the Queen Elizabeth competition in Belgium. It's really important. And so at the beginning, there were not so many Korean musicians in the first round or second round. And then year after year, there were more and more and more until 2009. There were 5 out of 12 in the final. It was crazy. And nobody understood why, because nobody studied this subject. So I came here with my camera and my team, and we made a movie. It was called the Korean Music Mystery, because it was a mystery for us, maybe not for you, maybe you knew. And so it was a big success. But after, the Koreans started to win this competition. First, there were a big number, but now they win all. 2 times Van Cliburn, 2 times Busoni, 4 times Queen Elizabeth competition, Chopin, so many. So I wanted to do a new movie to understand why suddenly they win and before they didn't win. So there was a change, I think. And so I made a second movie called K-Classics Generation, because for me, the classic music, it's like K-pop, K-food, K-beauty, the Hallyu. That's what's important for me to call it K-Classics.
I see. I understand it took quite some time to make these 2 documentaries. Could you explain that for us?
But it's not more than another movie. But of course, when you have the idea of the movie, it takes 1.5 years to do it really, to film and to shoot. I had facilities because I know all the musicians I took in the movie. I selected them because they were in Queen Elizabeth competition, and because we became friends. You have to know that every year I film the competition, so I film the videos of introduction of the 12 finalists. So every year there are so many, so we became friends. And Im Ji-young and Hwang Soo-mi, they said, okay, I won't be in. And Chloe Moon-ji-yeon too, and Kim Yoon-ji too. So it was not so difficult. Maybe it was one of my easier movie to make. But of course, it was difficult to find the good moment to film all together in Korea and in Germany where they live. So that was the most difficult part.
Right, I see. Personally, Mr. Loreau, how do you explain Korea's remarkable feats in the classical music arena?
If we come back in history, so there was a first wave of Korean classic, but 60s, 70s, 80s, they went to the States and Europe, because it was not possible here. No good teachers, it was not the good moment. And then the second wave started in 1988 after the democratization of the country. So all these Korean musicians who made career in the West came back, and they created the Korean National University of Arts and SNU too. Suddenly the teachers were very good, and so wow, after just 3-4 years, suddenly the Korean musicians were really so many. Since 2009 at the Queen Elizabeth competition, there are between 20 and 30% at every year. It's crazy. So I think what it changed for the third generation, the winners, is that the teacher changed their way to teach. For me, it's a principal reason, because they understood that the musician, the two students, they are all different. And so there is not only one way to teach, there is plenty of ways. You have to adapt to the child. Every child is unique, so you have to find a way to develop their originality, their identity, so the public will come, the audience. If they play all the same way, nobody will come at the end. It will be boring. And so, secondly, I think it's emulation. You know, when you saw Cho Sung-jin, Im Ji-young, or wow, you have a good model in front of you, so you want to become like them. So, it's in Korea. It's young too. It's only the young people who like classical music. It's completely the opposite in Europe. It's only old people, so it's crazy. But I think it's emulation, and then of course the project of the child becomes the project of all the family. So the mother stopped to work. She's a coach, and the father works more to get money to pay the best teachers, and I think these three reasons are the good reason why they win now.
Right, tailored education and the support of the whole family then.
Exactly.
I also have another question, and this is a personal question though. Do you believe that practice makes perfect in classical music, or do you have to be born with the talent?
No, I think you don't have to be born. Yeah, of course you must have talent, because when you see Im Yeon-chan, who won at 18 the Van Cliburn, he started at 7. It's not possible in 11 years to play like this, so there is something, of course. But I think the most important is to get parents who dedicate to you, so you have to live in a cocoon, and the teachers too must be protective and not as rigorous and disciplined. It's more to protect, and so after they want to practice 9-10 hours a day, because they have a goal in life, they have a passion. So I think, yeah, it's a reason.
Right. Mr. Loreau, in an interview with the Korean Times a while back, you claimed that the center of classical music is shifting to Korea. Now, that being said, what more can Korea do to perhaps cement this reality?
I think you are already at the top, so I think what I think really is we need, I think classical music needed this new freshness, this young, this youth coming from Korea. So I think Korea gives a kick to Europe. Hey, wake up! It's here that classical music here, and it was born in your country. So wake up!
So this group of young audiences here in Korea is perhaps breathing new life into classical music.
They bring a new life and a new. I think in Europe, the young consider that classical music is for museum, it's for all people. When you go to a concert, nobody has less than 50 years. Here it's the opposite. We filmed concert with Im Ji-young. There were 3,000 people, but nobody more than 35. So it's crazy. That's why I say that you found a way, I think, to show music differently and to play differently with so much passion and identity, and that's, I think, it's thanks to the teachers who understood how to teach now.
I see. Mr. Loreau, what appears to have perhaps fueled your interest in Korea and its stories? I should have asked you this earlier, but I'm asking you this now.
Yeah, but I came here in 2010 to present a movie at the Chechen Musical Movie Festival. And I became, in 1 minute, I became in love. I was in love with Korea. So I love the people, the way to be kind all the time and to feel you like you are a prince or something. We don't have that in Europe. So, yeah, I love the people more than maybe the mountains, the sea. I don't know. I think I have more friends in Korea than in Belgium. It's crazy, but it's like this. I feel really in empathy with them. I feel it's so wonderful how they can be strong mentally and concentration. They have a passion and they live it until the end. That's what I love. And this country, we came from nothing to where they are now with this value. I respect this. I would like that in Belgium too, we dedicate the money to culture and education, but we don't do. So, but you do, so you give the good example, and that's what I like here.
I see. Are you hoping that your documentary, the one about the 70th, to mark the 70th anniversary of the Korean War, will perhaps include these aspects that you've mentioned, the fact that Korea went from a poverty-stricken country to a leading nation in terms of technology as well as classical music? Are you hoping this will be included in your documentary? And if that's the case, Mr. Loreau, I wonder, how do you hope to include it in your documentary without giving away too much information about the upcoming project?
No, but of course, the three Belgians who came to live here, it's 3 different generations. Of course, so they can explain how it was when they arrived in '59 until Julian Quintert in 2004. So we will have videos from the back, from archives, to explain the success in 70 years of Korea. It's like a red line, or it's important. We show 5 people, but more important behind it's the story of Korea. We will always keep that in mind, of course.
I just said this next question might be a bit difficult. From the 5 stories that you have to share with us in this particular documentary, which story perhaps struck you the most?
Oh, I feel so close to all 5 now, so it's difficult. But I think maybe the most unbelievable story, the story of Chi Chong-wan, who came in a country where everything was to be rebuilt.
Yeah, to make the cheese factory.
Yeah, because in Korea, nobody eat cheese at this time, even not milk from animals. So it was crazy a little, no? And then it worked only because the pizzeria arrived at this moment. And so they needed cheese, and so they bought all the cheese he could do. And suddenly, wow, you should see the factory in Imshil is huge.
I have to admit, that was the first story that struck me as well, because as soon as you mentioned it, I thought it was very, very interesting.
And in Belgium, and it's crazy too, because of the 3 people, the 3 Belgians who came to Korea, we don't know them in Belgium. And maybe the 2 Koreans who came to live in Belgium, they are not so well known here too. So it's strange. Maybe it's they didn't live their destiny. The 3 Belgians had this destiny in Belgium and the other in Korea. So they live the life of the other. If you see what I mean, it's crazy. It's a little schizophrenic, but
it's very interesting. It's very intriguing, I have to say.
Yeah, and so we're starting tomorrow, we reunite them all, and they will talk about. It was funny because maybe the Belgian who became Korean will explain Korea to the Korean adopted who
went to live in Belgium.
And vice versa.
Right, I do. And finally, Mr. Loreau, before you leave us today, do share with us a bit about your other projects in the near future.
It's already a big project. So we will film now around until April 15, and then we will do the editing in March, September and October. So it takes all my time. I film all the concerts for my television, the Belgian television. So I film concerts, and I film the Queen Elizabeth Commission soon. Again, it will be wonderful because 28% of the contestants come from Korea. South Korea, and so it's 18 out of 63. It's crazy. So I will meet plenty of new Korean musicians. I'm very happy.
Right. And before I let you go, Mr. Loreau, could you tell us a bit about your musical background as well?
Yeah, I've always been in the music. I'm oboe player, and I make a master in university about musicology. So that's my background. But then I was hired by my company now, and they wanted that I film the concert because I knew music. And so now I became like director too, because of course after 40 years working for that, I think I have two,
jobs.
Yeah, two jobs in one. Even if I never studied the TV or director in school, but of course it comes with the time.
Right, and for all of us here in Korea, of course, we are enjoying your movies about Korea, your documentaries about the country itself. Thank you so much, Mr. Loreau, for your time today. It's a pleasure to have had you with us today.
Me too.
Right, well, that brings us to the end of this week's editions of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend. See you next Monday.